Hi, I'm Dr. Palabiyik, John Palabiyik. As many of you already know, I love talking about hospitality and tourism, especially with those who share that same passion. Today, we are not just talking about destinations, we are exploring what it means to craft extraordinary journeys with meaning, intention, and heart. And there is no one better to guide us through that conversation than my friend and travel expert, Eric Hrubant. Let's welcome to Eric and thank him for joining us and being willing to share his experience with our community. Welcome, Eric.
Hey, John, thank you so much for having me. Happy to be here. And hello, students.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you. Just to make it really fast, for those we as a friend, we have a lot of stories to chat. But
Yeah.
those meeting you for the first time,
hmm
it's Eric Ruban, and give us a glimpse into your story and what brought you to where you are today.
Yeah. So I'm Eric Hrubant, the owner and founder of CIRE Travel. And I own a concierge luxury travel agency. So what that means is I like to tell our clients that, we're not a mom and pop operation and we're not a big call center. So we really focus on bringing service and hospitality to our clients. So we craft luxury vacations for people. And those tend to have a pretty big price tag, usually $20,000 to well over six figures for a vacation. Yes, people actually pay that much for vacations, and frequently. And then we also do a lot of group travel, and we do a lot of day-to-day business travel. I was telling Dr. John that, don't follow my lead, but I'm a high school dropout who fell into travel when I went to college. Actually, I did get my associate's degree, but when I was in college, I took a job working at a travel agency in the late '90s, and back then there was a lot more manual work, like paper airline tickets and things like that. So I kind of literally worked my way up from answering the phones and making coffee to now owning my own business. And I think knowing the operations of that, and me just being naturally sort of a yes person and wanting to help people, has kind of made me successful.
I see. I see. I know the CIRE Travel is a unique travel, but would you like to tell us like a couple sentences what sets you apart from the other travel agencies?
Yeah, you know what? I have a very what I consider a pompous answer for that. But whenever someone says, why should I use Sire Travel or tell me about Sire Travel, I just kind of talk about myself and my team. It really comes down to the people of the business. So I've been working in service and hospitality my entire adult life, as well as nearly everyone on my team. So we really are the travel experts. We have been there, we've done that. We know the ins and outs. We know how to make our clients' trips perfect, whether that's a simple trip from Boston to New York or whether it is like a 21-day safari. So again, my company is not about bots. It's not about algorithms. It is about human professionals helping. So if you think about it, in travel, it really has become kind of like a humanless thing, right? You book travel on an app or a computer. Sometimes you can check in through your phone, but actually working with professionals that have your back and help you make decisions is so valuable in this day and age.
I see, I see. Well, I know you started at a very early age,
Yeah.
even deciding to drop to school and go back to industry. But my question is, why the travel industry? Why not something else? And is there like a defining moment or that you realize that you have to be there?
Yeah. So it's kind of funny. I feel like for a lot of people who work in travel, you fall into travel, right? You somehow it's introduced to you, and travel's so big; it can really be any aspect of travel. But I when I was in college, I went to school at night and I had to work during the day. So I just had a 9 to 5 job working at a travel agency back in the day. But I was going to school actually become a social worker. So I wanted to basically help people as a social worker. That was going to be my life career. And then I got into travel, and I realized I'm really good with people. I'm really good at talking with people, making them feel validated, hearing them, and really kind of making their lives easy. So, about 2 years into working in travel, I was like, wait a second, like I'm kind of doing social work, but I'm doing it at a travel agency. So I say my job is 90% psychology, and only 10% travel. And it's true, working with people, it really is about hearing them and seeing them and kind of, making things easy for them.
Right, right. Actually, the moment you said like a social worker, this the first thing came to my mind. That's what you're doing anyway,
Yeah, I
As soon as
am.
you said that, and I hear you. Like it's a really people business, and like the I'm thinking about, you kind of explain a little bit, but I'm thinking about the technology.
Yeah.
In our program, we have a business IT program, we have computer science, and we have, like,
Hmm.
especially with the AI and everything, all the apps. We are in an era that the people think that, oh, everything is in my phone, so I can do everything
Yeah.
on my phone. That's people what they think. But I know there must be something that you are adding more than the phone can do. So, what value does your team offer that technology alone can't deliver?
Yeah, so technology is wonderful, and I feel like technology is there to like enhance things, right? So again, everyone on my team has anywhere from 5 years experience to 40 years experience, right? We've been doing this. So technology sort of helps us and helps our clients. But think about when you go to book a trip online, whether it's something simple or complex, right? What do you have in abundance of? Options, right? There's options. There's options on 5 million websites. And now we have AI that gives you even more options. So, what does everybody have? They have decision fatigue, right? If you think about it, that's why Yelp and Travel Advisor have those sort of websites have become so important, because people just don't know what to pick. It's kind of like there's 30 options to go to London, there's 500 hotels, there's 18 safari lodges. Like, what do I pick? What do I pick? So, I feel like people think that they like options and want options, but it is exhausting, right? There is decision fatigue. I use this term all day long. So, working with a travel advisor, pardon my French, we cut through that bullshit. We cut through all of the wondering, right? We really can say, hey, here are a few options, and here's what we think may be best for your trip, and here's why. So, I really feel that in hospitality, if someone's coming to you as a professional, like if I go to my financial advisor, I want her to say, here's my suggestions and here's why. What do you think? Kind of leading me, right? I'm paying her to kind of have my back on the finances side. That's what a modern day travel advisor is, right? We basically are your advisor, where we're helping you make the right decision. Whether you're paying $100 for a trip or $100,000 for a trip, that's an investment, and you want to make sure that your investment is protected. So again, that's really what a live human professional does, way more than AI or Google. And again, whenever new technology comes out, someone's like, "Oh, are you scared of the internet? Are you scared of AI?" And I'm like, "No, it actually makes things easier for me, because it weeds out a lot of like the price shoppers and tire kickers, and it helps us bring. I find that I get more qualified clients a lot easier, because they've been on websites, they've been on forums, they've gone through Reddit rabbit holes, right? They want someone who knows what they're talking about and that can help them. And more than anything, they want a person, right? They want to know they have Eric or Robin or Terry or Esther. They want to know that they have that relationship. So I am in the relationship business. I kind of feel like travel online is transactional, and travel with a booking travel with a human is very much about the relationship. And I can tell so many stories about when you get to work with a client, whether they're for a business trip or a personal trip, like the value you bring just by knowing them and knowing what makes them happy and just makes life easier. You have those clients for life because they know that you get it.
Right, right. It's you really put it in a way that perfectly the transaction and experience. I'm with you that, and I'm also thinking, like, imagine that you're spending hours and hours. If you pay yourself minimum wage,
Yeah.
all these blogs and everything probably will cost you a lot. That's one thing. The other thing is, imagine that you are planning a trip and you are just planning for your 1 week. You only have 1 week
Mhm.
vacation,
Yep.
and you're planning for an entire year. And if something goes bad,
Yeah.
you are wasting your entire week plus how much you paid for the travel, hotels,
Yeah.
and things. And sometimes the things might happen really out of control. You may get sick, you may have an
Yep.
accident, and you may be in a danger. When you consider all these risks and being in such a comfortable environment, like, you know what, Eric is in the line, so I'm okay with this. I think it's worth it. That's my personal experience and opinion, right?
It is. If you think about it, I think a term that everyone should learn is what's your time worth?
Mhm.
Everybody's time is worth something, right? So if I'm spending 5 hours booking a trip, now some people that's enjoyable, right? If you're retired or you have a lot of free time,
Mhm.
5 hours, that may be the fun part, right? Like I love to garden and spend 5 hours, toiling in the dirt. For some people, that would be horrible for them, right? So again, if you have 5 hours to do something fantastic, but what's your time worth? Especially for business travel. I tell business owners, if you're paying your team, if you're paying your staff, and some people get paid hundreds of dollars an hour or thousands of dollars an hour. Do you really want those people spending even 20 minutes looking online for something? No, like the, time is money, and that's important. So again, what's your time worth? And I have a lot of clients who really do love the hunt of travel, right? It's kind of like, bargain shopping sometimes, or looking for that perfect outfit, finding the perfect hotel. A lot of our clients love the hunt, but then they'll come to us saying, hey, Eric, here's what we want to do. Here's some research I've already done. What do you think? Can you book it for me? Because at the end of the day, if it's 3 in the morning and there's an emergency, I want to know that I can call CIRE Travel. And if something's really an emergency, I can call Eric. And that's, I think, in hospitality nowadays, that's really what people want. They want to, they're paying for you. Our clients want access to Eric and to all my team, and that's what they're paying for.
Right. It's a great value to me. Well, when I meet with the students in
Yeah.
typical environment, I talk a lot about tourism and hospitality. There's something that I repeatedly tell them: the hospitality mindset. Have a hospitality mindset.
Yeah.
And typically, they they ask me, what is hospitality mindset, or what is hospitality for you? And
Mhm.
this question sounds very simple, but
Yeah.
no, it's very meaningful. What do you think the true hospitality for you in your words? Like, what is the hospitality mindset?
Yeah, I was just telling you, Joe, before this call, but but I'm reading a book right now by a restaurant guy named Danny Meyer.
Mhm.
And what's the book called? A Seat at the Table, or Setting the Table. Setting
Setting
the Table, I think, is the name of the book. And I'm only halfway through it, and it's a book that's been on my bookshelf for years. I only picked it up recently. But he talks a little bit about the difference between service and hospitality. And it gave me an aha moment because, I've always said that CIRE Travel is a service business. But, I kind of feel like there's different kinds of service and hospitality. So there's service, sometimes just fulfilling an order, right? Someone wants to go just on a very simple trip. You're helping them and you're providing a service. But hospitality, this may sound a little bit juvenile, but for me, it shows how much you care and how much you really think and how much detail goes into something, right? So, like, just an example that just happened to me about an hour ago is I have a client, a very famous client, who's having a car service take her from Boston to New York City. Like she's paying for a car and driver to take her. She doesn't want to fly or drive. So I confirmed the car and driver for her, but I know that she has a favorite driver from this company within Boston. So when I made the reservation, I was like, hey, my client really loves this particular driver, and this is going to be like, a 6-hour drive. Do you think that we can get that driver? And I got it. And then I went to the client and I was like, here's your confirmation. I always got the driver you like. And she was like, wow, thank you. Because this is a really busy person, right? Who's always on the go, who has 100 appointments a day. So for her to get into a car where she knows the driver already, right? She already has that shorthand with the driver, the relationship. It's even going to be more casual, right? It's even going to be less work for her. And this driver who's driven her before will know like little idiosyncrasies about her already. So again, it just kind of takes the edge off. So I kind of feel hospitality is going 1, 2, or 100 steps further than just service.
Right, right.
There is a restaurant in my town here, and I live in Kennebunk, Maine, and there's a restaurant I love going to. And I was talking to the owner one day about a story about this particular after dinner drink that I had somewhere once, and we were just having a conversation about it. And then I went back to the restaurant 2 weeks later, and he's like, "Eric, I got you a bottle of that particular liquor." So I just thought that was such a great moment of hospitality, because he heard what I said. He knew I was a regular and I'd come back, and that just sticks with me, you know? So again, also, I kind of feel like Danny Meyer had this quote, but there's someone asked him, like, what's your favorite restaurant? And he says, it's the restaurant where everyone loves me the most. And I kind of feel, if you think about businesses you frequent, right? It's kind of like you want to feel special. Like, you know, most of you are too young to know this, but there used to be this show on television called Cheers, where when everybody walked into the restaurant, it was like, "Hi, Norm," right? They called you by name. So just think, when you go to certain businesses and you frequent a lot, when someone says, "Hey, Eric," "Hey, John," you know, it makes you feel warm and fuzzy a little bit. It makes you feel seen and recognized. So again, I kind of think that's hospitality, when you really get the warm and fuzzies, right? Like, you feel like someone sees you. So
Right.
anyway, that's my definition, my very long and winded definition of hospitality.
It's funny, it just reminded me one of my friends, and years ago. I used to bartend, and one of my friends, and he used to look at the door, and someone enters the door, he welcomes the person with the name, and
Yep.
sometimes comes with a joke or something. But guess what? At the same time, he's making the drink for that person.
Yep.
I was looking at him, and I asked him, I said, "How come you know every single customer and make all drinks? Like all drinks, and people get
Yep.
to the table, the jokes are ready, drinks are ready," and almost like asking the question that, like, then he's not even giving the menu. He is asking, like, "Do you want the usual? Do you want it
Yeah.
like well done or medium well?" I'm like, oh my God,
Yes.
that's the care. That's what the hospitality is to
Yes.
me.
And they're helping you make a decision, right?
Right.
Decision fatigue is real. So if they're like, "Hey, John, do you want the martini tonight with gin or vodka?" It's
Yeah.
kind of like, oh, I mean, just think about, even for students at the end of a busy day, right? When someone says to you, "What do you want for dinner?" I hate that question. I have made decisions all day long. At 6 or 7 o'clock at night, I don't really want to even have to think about what I want for dinner. So even if you go to a restaurant and someone's like, you know, "Here's what we have on special," or "Here's your favorite drink," just think about it. It's one less decision you have to make. And the more I think about that, the more I think really good hospitality is also about, like, helping people make a decision, because everyone's so tired and you know, done with thinking by 7 o'clock at night,
That's
usually.
that's to me, that's a luxury. Knowing all this is the luxury. But by
Exactly.
looking at you, you are really great in the industry, and I'm always thinking, coming from the school, and I'm
Yeah.
always looking at the people's, like, what is the philosophy of it? What is the principles of it? Like,
Mhm.
what is the story behind of it? So by looking at, like, you in the hospitality, is there a philosophy, or is there any principles, or is there anything, any story or any lesson that you took and apply everyday life?
Ooh, that's I have to think about that one for a second. Um, I don't know. Again, I think if you work in hospitality, whether it's a restaurant, a travel agency, a hotel, you have to really enjoy what you do. And even if you're an introvert, you still need to be able to be an extrovert, I suppose, from 9 to 5, right? When you're working, you really have to be able to put yourself out there. So again, I really think you have to your soul has to be in it. You have to like it. If you don't like working with others, if you don't like making people happy, you know, if you don't get joy when you see someone else being happy, then hospitality is not for you, right? Go be an engineer. Uh, so again, it comes down to the very basics. But like, when I interview people, um, if someone says to me, "I love to travel and I've been to 40 countries," and like, that actually turns me off. I don't want to hear that. When I interview somebody, I want to hear, "I love working with people. I love, you know, curating trips. I love making things easy." That's what I want to hear. So, you know, again, I kind of feel like you need to really, for people who work at CIRE Travel, they really have to want to help the client and make their lives better. Um, and again, provide service, provide hospitality. So, again, I think to answer your question, you have to really love this. You can't fake it, because all of us have been into restaurants or hotels, or when you walk in or you call, like, you feel it. If someone's having a bad day, or if someone's not in it, or if the boss just yelled at the employee, like, you feel that energy is real, right? And the same thing on the phone or even email. People can tell the tone. People, whether it's your voice or just how you're typing, people can tell that. So you really have to be able to bring that kind of warmth to everything. So when I hire people, that's really what I'm getting at. They have to have the right personality for this.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know if I answered your question very well there, John, but
I think it's great. I have the same feeling when I get in the class. Like when I enter
yeah,
the class, usually there are times that I enter the class, I look at the students and I say, is this the correct class? Like, doesn't feel like a hospitality class.
yeah,
Everybody's sitting silent, they're not talking. I'm looking at, this can't be the hospitality class.
yeah,
Nobody's talking, nobody's interacting. So I know the feeling. It sounds like very, very familiar, right?
yeah. And again, I kind of think, really good hospitality is a very honorable profession, right? Like, I know a lot of bartenders who make well over six figures a year just because people go to see them as well, right? People, if you go to a bar or restaurant somewhere you frequent, you're usually going because you know the people, they know you. So again, I kind of feel like you have to also think of working in service or working in hospitality as important as any other profession. We are professionals, right? So sometimes people who work in restaurants or hotels are looked down upon, but those are the people who are running the shows, who are making things happen. So I think I tell my staff every day, again, part of my French, but we are the shit. We are the bomb. We are the rock stars, right? So, if someone talks down to you, you have to at times, kind of like brush it off, let them talk down to you, let it go. But again, we are the professionals, right? We are here for our clients. So I think working in hospitality is no different than being a lawyer, a doctor. We may not be curing cancer, but if we're helping someone get to their meeting or get to their vacation and then get home to their families, or help them do their business, have them have fun, that's really important work, And I think, that's how I see what CIRE Travel does. We're helping businesses make money. We're helping people make a living. We're helping people provide for their children. We're helping people create experiences when they go on vacation with their families, right? Like, we're creating those memories, and we're making it easier, making sure people get there and get home. So, that's kind of what gets me up every morning.
Right. I actually had a bartender experience you just mentioned. It could be a good example. I was in one of the cruises and I was told that there is a robot bartender. So
Uh-huh.
I went to a robot bartender. It's funny enough. Yes, there is a robot, makes the
Mhm.
drinks, and people around the robot, and all of them with the cameras taking a pictures and
Yeah.
videos. Some people ordered things and show that how bartender does it, but
Yeah.
everybody leaves. Like,
Yeah.
it's not really didn't sound to me like a bartender. It's like, it's almost like a machine. You get your coke, like
Yeah.
your money, get your coke, and it didn't really feel like you're at the bar. Like, as a person that worked as a bartender, I know the ambience in a bar, so I didn't feel that the same thing. We were there. I'll be honest. I didn't
Yeah.
order anything. I just took some pictures and left.
Yeah. No, I've had that. I was at a hotel in New York a couple of years ago, and I forgot something. I forgot my toothbrush, so I called the front desk, and they were like, "We're sending the robot up to your room," and I was tired, so I was like, "I wonder if I heard that correctly." Sure enough, it was like the doorbell rings, and I opened the door, and it's like a robot with like a toothbrush, and it was weird, but it was also kind of like, okay, for something as simple as delivering a toothbrush where I don't really need any interaction, that was fine. But again, I think going to a bar and hitting a button, it kind of defeats the purpose of going out. But again, that's just me. Everyone's different, I realize. So some people would go to a bar for the robot, but I think most people probably would not.
Right. Well, Eric, I'm just coming to something that you are really expert.
Yeah.
And I will tell you what we think, what people think in generally about your expertise. It's about the luxury tourism.
Yeah.
I start in the class, the first thing the students say is when I ask them what is luxury tourism or hospitality, the first thing they say it's all about price. It's
Mm,
expensive.
yeah.
That's what they say. It's the first thing they come to their minds. But I feel like there must be something deeper or more emotional or maybe more personal. Am I wrong, or is there something different than the price?
Well, yeah, so I think the word luxury is meant to be expensive, right? I don't know if I agree with it, but I do feel like luxury is something different for everybody, and I think throughout your life, luxury changes, right? So um, I think as you get older and as you get busier, you just want people to help you and stuff, right? Life is busy. You have a home, a family, a job, a career. There's a lot to do. Having someone help you with different things, I think that's a luxury. Um, I know as I get older, I really want more and more peace and quiet, and I want things to be a little bit more exclusive, right? So if you think about it, like on for people who travel in business class or first class, yes, that's luxurious and nice, but it's also less people, right? If you have 200 people sitting in economy and then you have 18 people sitting in business, you have that personal space. You're paying for just sort of a little bit of privacy and just a little bit more me time. So again, luxury means something different for everybody. It's not just about the price. I think it's really about the feeling special. Like, anyone can go buy a black t-shirt at Target or Walmart. And you can also go buy a black t-shirt at Gucci or Louis Vuitton, right? I think it's just that how I things and experiences are very important to people. Even if you say, oh, I'm not into material things, like we are, it just, again, and even if you make minimum wage and, you're just making ends meet, you still want certain things that give you a feeling. So I feel like luxury is very different for everybody. And, I think I'm successful because I really talk to our clients, trying to figure out what makes them tick, what feeling they want from an experience. Like I'll usually ask whether it's a corporate client or even a business client, like, what do you want to feel on this trip? Like, what's the experience you're going? What's the feeling? And kind of curating things that way. So again, I'm going on a tangent here, but I think luxury is different for everybody, but it just comes down to that to that feeling you want to have. I have clients who are multimillionaires who still fly economy, but they're staying at like the presidential suite at a hotel because for them, they see the airplane as just a method of transportation. They don't find any luxury in that, right? They don't want to spend the money on it. But when they get to their hotel, they'll spend $5,000 a night in the presidential suite because for them that's what's important. Then I have people who switch it up. They're like, you know what? If I'm sitting on a plane for 10 hours, I want to be able to recline. I want to be able to fall asleep. I need to have 8 hours sleep for that 10-hour flight. But you know what? When I go to the hotel, I'm not going to be in the room. I'm going to be out for 12 hours a day. And as long as the bed's comfortable, I'm fine staying at a 3-star or 4-star hotel or a 5-star hotel in the simplest room. So, and again, I feel like that changes throughout your life. And it also, I recently went to Brooklyn to see a show
Mhm.
and I just stayed at a really cheap and cheerful hotel next to the arena because I was going to be there for one night and I was just going to sleep in the room and I didn't want to commute to Manhattan or commute further away. So for me, the choice of luxury was simply one about distance.
Yeah.
If I was going somewhere for a week, I probably would, even if it's a little further, I would want to stay somewhere with a lot more creature comforts, even if that's, maybe a mile further than where my main business will be or my main tourism will be.
Right. Well, it's a really interesting approach to hearing that luxury is different for different people, and of
Yeah.
course, it should come with a price. I wouldn't argue with that, but
Yeah.
I agree with you. Well, I'm looking at the industry now. I know there are a lot of changes in the industry, which is the
Yeah.
nature of the industry is the change. The hospitality
Mhm.
is the change anyway. But I would like to hear what is hot in the industry right now. What is the emerging trends, or any challenges, or any exciting shifts that the students should know?
Yeah, I mean, I think again, I feel like travel hospitality is always changing. That's the nature of it, and you have to kind of go with the flow, and you have to kind of enjoy that. Like status quo is never status quo, right? It's always about changing and moving. And I feel like for me right now, what's important is a lot of the drama going on in the world right now, right? Like as we speak, flights in and out of Newark are troublesome to say the least, right? There is Israel airspace is closed down right now. In India, there's some airspace closed down right now. So like for me, crafting journeys, I have a lot of my clients in and out of New York. Having Newark right now, what's going on in Newark has caused me great stress, right? Making sure that our clients know what their options are, what other options are. I have a group of 15 people flying to Bangalore, but they're connecting through Delhi, and the Delhi airspace is going to be closed. So it's having to reroute these people. So this isn't the sexy part of hospitality and travel, but you really kind of need to know what's going on in the world. I have some clients, some non-US clients who are afraid to kind of leave the country and come back right now, thinking that they may be detained or their visa will be canceled. Or, I have a clients coming for conferences who are like, hey, is it safe to come to the US? We've heard all of these things. Or, I want to go to Canada. Will they be welcoming to us now? So again, it's kind of like just without, watching the news all day long, you have to kind of know what's going on in the world to kind of being able to answer questions and to be honest with your clients, to kind of give them the facts, and then also kind of be like, here's the facts, here's what I think, and help them make an informed decision. So again, when someone asks me I actually hate the question, what's hot in travel, because, that can mean anything to anyone at any time. I can tell you what hotels are hot. I can tell you, how many people are going to Spain this year. But I really think, that for the question you asked is you just kind of need to know what's going on in the world and being able to pivot. Pivoting is very important. And again, like the status quo is bad in travel. You have to be able to constantly be able to shift. That's what I said too about, being excited about your job. Like, you have to enjoy this. You have to enjoy the fast pace. You have to enjoy the changes. Otherwise, this is not for you.
That's right. That's right. Well, you just mentioned about the difficulties in the travel. I'm also hearing some concerns, especially in the for both sides. The friends in the US, some of them are canceling to travel outside for different reasons, and I'm hearing some friends they don't want to come to US for different reasons. Do you see the same thing, or is it just me to see the same thing?
No, so my business hasn't been directly affected, I'd say, luckily, for anything going on, but I am getting asked a lot of questions. Like I have some clients going to Montreal on vacation. They're like, will the Canadians be nice to us? And I'm like, I don't know. I think they will. And or the opposite. Like I live in Maine, where we have a lot of Canadian tourists, and it'll be curious to see like how many, how much French I hear is being spoken this summer as I go downtown, because again, I'm just sort of being curious. Again, people also want to, with the news right now, you don't always get a full picture. You get a lot of sound bites, you get headlines. So you may hear Newark is a catastrophe right now, but what does that mean? Why is Newark a catastrophe? Like, break it down for me. Like, not just the headlines, but why is traveling in and out of Newark bad right now? Being able to give people the facts and then have them make an informed decision for themselves. Again, kind of what a social worker does, right? They don't fix your problems. They sort of help you to, fix your own problems.
Right, right. Well, we hear a lot of discussions about how people travel. Like they go different destinations and they get a lot of pushback. Sometimes they don't like the tourist, over tourism, and other things. But also for the people, like people, I had an experience, one of the great places in Turkey I visited in Ephesus. You can spend like a week there. It's a wonderful destination and a historical landmark. But I saw a person running to place right before they closed around 5 o'clock. She was trying to enter and they said, we are closing. And she said, well, I saw it. It just happened in front of me. And she said, no, we're just going to get in, take a picture and leave. That's all we need. And I was like looking, really? I have an archaeology degree, so I know the history of photos as well. I said, you just get in and take a picture, and
Yeah.
that's it, And that was my perception. But also, then I start to think like, is there a way to experience a destination, or like, who am I to tell the people
Yeah.
you should go and spend your time in that city or destination? I start to
Mhm.
feel like that's not my business. But is there a way um, to um, to go to a destination, experience that place? Do you recommend anything, or
Yeah.
feel
You
about
what I've learned is that you have to really listen to people and ask them questions about how they travel,
it?
right? Because I when I was younger, I planned people's trips around what I thought was cool, right? Or what I thought they should do. And luckily, most of the time that worked out. But the older I got, the more I realized you have to meet people at their level. So, I think for a lot of people, when you say you want to go on vacation, they want to, most people want, the off the beaten path, right? They want to sort of live like a local. They want to go to small restaurants. They don't want to go to chains. They really want to immerse themselves in the local lifestyle. And I'd say that's most people when they travel for vacation what they want. Other people may want a little bit of that, but they also may want to go to, like, McDonald's for dinner or Applebee's for dinner, right? So it really is kind of talking to people and asking them. Like, I think of my mother, you know, um, I grew up very poor. We had nothing. So when I started making money and having my own business, I would take her to these fancy restaurants and she would barely touch her food. And I was like, Mom, we're at this, like, Michelin starred restaurant, but she was uncomfortable. She was like, I'd rather go to Olive Garden, and, I realized, I was projecting what I wanted her to feel, to experience, but she would just rather go to, like, a simple, casual dining restaurant. And I feel like sometimes with clients, I really have to ask specific questions, like, what kind of restaurants do you go to when you're at home that you want to experience? What destinations do you want to go to? Like, again, like going back to the example you just gave about the 5 p.m. cutoff, I kind of see both sides of the story where, if you're going somewhere, I think you should be respectful of the cultures, people's time. So, just getting there at 5 o'clock as they're closing the doors and saying, let me in for a photo. Like, I could see how that's bad behavior, and I could see how the person on the other side of that would be annoyed. At the other side, it's kind of like, let the lady in, take the photo and go, right? Close at 5:02, not 5 o'clock. So again, I feel like hospitality is always having that gray area where, the customer may not always be right, but sometimes it's just easier to say yes to somebody and make them happy than to be like, doors are shut at 5. That's it. Where sometimes you can just be like, come in, take the photo. And, you're kind of making someone happy. So again, I see both sides of every story usually.
Well, Eric, actually, it's maybe a little off the topic, but just to tell the audience and viewers, the place I mentioned, Jesus, like it
Yeah.
was closing at 5 o'clock, but now they have a new thing over there. I think they've been doing like almost a year now. They have a night tour, so you're going at
Oh,
antique and ancient city and one of the biggest libraries in the antique world, and the night tour. You're literally walking down to a city in the night environment, and it's a less people.
cool.
I haven't been there. I just watched some documentaries. So
Oh,
this place, if they happen to go there, which if I happen to be in the area, I would really want to do that. But
yeah.
because I know my students and my friends are really piggy about it, they will say, you know what, you said 5 o'clock, but they have a night tours. I know, but it's so I just want to clarify that one. But let's go back. I know you travel a lot and you see people
Yeah.
travel a lot. Is there any place? This is a little fun part of the
Okay.
conversation. Is there any place like at least once in your life you need to see? I know there are tons of places, but this is maybe personal. It doesn't have to be the best place in the world. Do you think that if there is a place, a destination, you should at least try once in your life?
Yeah. I would say I do get to travel a lot, and I get to travel well. But I'd say one of the trips that I enjoyed most was when I went to India. You know, we went to Delhi and to Agra, and to Jaipur, and I just I was so out of my comfort zone, and I was uncomfortable a lot of the time. But I felt just so alive. And I felt, I felt like I was completely out of my New York City or main comfort zone, with food and temperature and just everything. And it was overwhelming in the best possible way. And I feel like sometimes you need to be shocked out of your comfort zone. So again, as I get older, I kind of become more insular. I don't want to go out of my comfort zone. I don't necessarily want to always try new things, but I have to force myself to kind of be like, nope, just go. Just say yes. Yes, and it's like improv, right? Yes, and I'm gonna go and I'm gonna be uncomfortable. But again, India is what for me was the trip where I would like to go back again and again and again in different parts of India. Again, I feel like most people who go on safari feel the same way. Once you go on safari, you're changed, seeing everything up close. And again, it's, I think sometimes when you're shocked out of your everyday, that's also when you have aha moments, right? Like I think like I kind of joke with my team that when I travel, it's kind of when I can think and I have all these great ideas and I'll just start emailing like, oh, don't let me forget this. Don't let me forget this. Because again, when you're out of your day to day, when you're out of your routine, like your mind begins to percolate, right? So again, I think travel, whether it's traveling from, Boston to Maine by car or, going, Boston to Timbuktu, whatever it is, just get out. Just get out. Get out of your mental confinement, and just go somewhere, because I think that's also when you have really great aha moments. And
Right.
so, like for me, it took really to go to India, but I think a lot of people can,
Well,
go to London or Paris.
it really changed, like you said, it changes people to people. Like the places you mentioned, the India and safari, I've never been, by the way, but I am actually planning to be in Delhi next week, today and
Oh,
Tuesday, and hopefully the Agra is the Wednesday next week, next Wednesday. And I have never been in safari, but I'm hearing a lot of great things.
yeah,
Sometimes I think like I should maybe plan a trip with people like you for the safari specifically. A lot of
yeah,
people they ask. Maybe we should discuss later on, sometime in the future. Maybe safari is actually in my
it
I don't
is.
want to say bucket list, but it's one of my
Yeah.
places that I would love to go.
I love that. I had a client for the first time who never left the country, like just got their passport in their mid 30s and they went to Turkey. And for them, like, they were, when they first heard the call to prayer, they were just absolutely like blown away. Cause again, it was, I feel like in Istanbul is such a both a European city and Middle Eastern city. It's, and to combine those two, you have the familiar and you have the unfamiliar. And when she came back from the trip, I was like, "How was it?" And she goes, "It was just like the best journey. Like I loved every minute of it, and it was both familiar and different at the same time." And again, she just sort of saw things with new eyes.
Right. That's what the trouble is, right? I mean, just to bring the right eyes with you. That's what it is.
Yeah,
And before we coming to end, like last couple of
yeah,
questions, one of them is I would like to hear. I'm sure people are asking you, but you are
yeah.
making reservations and
Mhm.
planning travels with the people for this summer. What do you see? Like, where are the people are traveling now? What are the top locations now?
Yeah, so it's funny. Things change, for Americans, especially East Coast Americans. I feel like there's there's Italy, there's Greece, there's France, and there's Ireland, right? Like I kind of feel like most people who live on the East Coast who travel have been to these four places and have been to them multiple times. So those are like the evergreen destinations, right? Where sometimes you can go to Rome 14 times, you still like going to Rome. But I
Yes.
do feel like a lot of people are going further now. They're going to the Pacific. Japan is huge. We must be planning, a couple dozen different trips to Japan this year, whether they're ski trips, spring blossom trips, or even summer trips. Japan really, for whatever reason, for us has been just a huge seller. And also, a lot of people like, um, as I call it, the fly and flop, right? They just want to get on a plane, sit on a beach, not leave the hotel, and just read a book and have a pretty drink. So again, the Cancun again. I would back in the day, you would never send clients to Cancun in the summer because it's hot here, right? Why would you want to go somewhere else that's hot? And people now are like, nope, you know what? It's cheaper. I'm happy to go. It's 80 degrees in Boston. It's 95 degrees in Cancun. I'm just going to sit on the beach. I'm happy to do that. So again, you know, trends change, and COVID was also a thing where a lot of rules were broken during COVID and have stayed broken, if you would, on where to go and what time, and not just going in peak season to places, but going off season as well.
Right, right. Well, Eric, before we close, one last questions I will ask you. I want to open the floor for you. Like with, I know we have a lot of stories and advices that you can share with students. So think about like our students, the hospitality and tourism management in general. It doesn't have to be in my class. And something that do you want to share something with them, like something they cannot find in the textbooks, but it also help them build a meaningful and rewarding career. Would you like to share anything with them? The floor is
I grew up in Jackson Heights, Queens, right? And I had nothing. My mother and I were on welfare and food stamps. I didn't get on my first airplane until I was 18 and could pay for it myself. And when I was a kid growing up, I didn't really see big things for myself. It was kind of like just one, getting through the day, getting through the week, getting through the month. And then I started working in travel. And when I first started working in travel, I was just an assistant. I was a secretary, a receptionist, basically, and worked my way up. But I really loved talking to people, and I really loved helping people. And that gave me such confidence, right? It kind of made me like the more I did, the more confidence I felt. And it got to the point where, from 9 to 5, I was a different Eric. I was confident. Like I knew what I was doing. I was making good money. People would ask me for my opinion and stuff. And, again, my life could be in shambles, but from 9 to 5, like I was in control. Like I knew what I was doing. Like travel was my safe space. So again, I kind of feel like for all of the students listening, like travel is so big. There's so many opportunities, right? Like I was very lucky where I now have my own business, and again, you can make a lot of money in travel. Like I probably make as much money as a lawyer. And I get to employ 12 people. The fact that I get up every morning and know that I am helping, 12 others with their livelihood, that's really important to me. So again, I feel like working in travel can be honorable, even if you're working as a hostess in a restaurant or host in a restaurant. Like, again, there's so many opportunities. And again, the more you talk to people and work with people, the world's going to open up. And again, by talking to people, you're going to meet more people. So, take the entry-level job working at Applebee's, right? Because you never know, the table you're going to serve could be that table, that person's going to get you to the next level. So talk to everybody, and just, again, travel really it's so broad. Anyone's welcome to reach out to me on my website and schedule like an informational call about, how I got into travel, different avenues. I'd be happy to chat. But I really do think travel is the kind of place where you can see the world, you can make a lot of money, you can help a lot of people. And again, and it's the kind of thing where if you want to do career pivots and start in hotels and then work in a cruise or, own your own company, there's so many avenues. So again, I think if you're in the hospitality program, stay there and explore. And Dr. John is a great resource as well, because again, look, he has such passion, and that's so important.
Oh, thank you very much, Eric. Thank you for sharing your journey and insight with us. You have reminded us that this industry isn't just about booking trips, and it's a human business, as the Starbucks founder Howard Schultz once said. We are in the people business. That happens to sell coffee. So likewise, you are a people business.
We just sell travel.
And it's core. It's about building relationships. It's earning the trust and crafting moments, and that just take people to a new places, but often lead them back to themselves. That's what
I love that.
I look at the troubles. and you are actually helping the people in searching for something unique. They may unexpectedly discover who they are, and you help the people live the moment. As the Roman says, carpe diem. Thank you, Eric.
Sure. Thank you for having me.